Okay, we're now going to do a very similar analysis on the OralB powered cross-action toothbrush. OralB is now a division of Procter & Gamble, and OralB, this toothbrush was designed several years after the spin brush. Interestingly, the spin brush was originally developed by a group of entrepreneurs who then sold that business, spin brush, to Procter & Gamble. And when Procter & Gamble acquired OralB, actually when it acquired Gillette, which owned OralB, it had to divest of its spin brush business because of U.S. antitrust regulations. And so, interestingly, OralB is now owned by Procter & Gamble, whereas the spin brush, which used to be a Procter & Gamble product, is now owned by Church & Dwight. Okay, so let's take a look at the OralB product. First of all, the action of the brush is essentially the same. By the sound, you can tell it's a little higher frequency, but it also is a back and forth action, and in this case, the front bristles don't move up and down. They appear to rock. They appear to rock back and forth, although it's not really easy to see that. So that's the OralB action, and the head comes off with a little more difficulty. There's a little nub there that you have to depress to get the head off. So now if I look at the head, actually what I should do is, instead of looking at the head first, let me look at the shaft first. So this shaft does not go up and down. Rather, it is spinning, but it's spinning out a motion. The end of this shaft is rotating in a little circular path. Right? So it's not just a straight axial rotation. It's a little. This ball at the end of the shaft is sweeping out a little circle, and then what happens is, as it sweeps out that circle, what happens is the ball, it's going to be hard to see, but the ball goes down in a slot there, and as that ball sweeps out a circle, it causes the head to rotate back and forth. So there's a linear slot, which as that ball rotates around, it causes, the ball moves back and forth in the slot, but it causes a rocking action of the bristle. And that's what causes this bristle to go back and forth. And then just kind of along the way, the shaft causes this guy to rock, this part of the thing to rock up and back, right? So this is really a lot simpler than that mechanism that had springs and so forth in the spin brush. But it's now curious to think about what is going to be the mechanism that would allow that shaft to rotate around like that. So one thing you notice right away is that there's just one battery. Again, Duracell is actually owned by Procter & Gamble, so it's not surprising that they would use their own battery in this product. But there's only room for one cell in this toothbrush. And note that we have, just as with the spin brush, there's an O-ring there as well. One of the nice things about this toothbrush is it actually can come apart without destroying the parts. So in fact, this piece is now separated from the drive and the motor. And you could see that similarly to the spin brush, there's a little motor here, although this motor is smaller. And the interconnection is also a little bit simpler because there's just one battery here. And then there's a very simple button here which causes the connection to be made to power the motor. And then basically you can see here that the motor is connected to has at its end a little cup Just a little cup, basically. And that little cup is mounted just off center. See? So the hole in the bottom of that cup is mounted just off center. And what that means is that essentially the motor is grabbing the end of this shaft, which extends down into the handle. You can see it there. You can see the end of the shaft there. It's basically that little cup is grabbing the end of that shaft and doing this with it, rotating it around like that, which is causing this end to wiggle in a circle. And in fact, the location of the fixed point in the middle, which is about there, the ratio between the length that sticks out on this side and the length that sticks out on this side is what dictates essentially the transmission ratio of this system. So this can sweep out a bigger circle, larger diameter circle, than the circle that's swept out by this cup by locating the pivot point here closer to the motor than to the end of the shaft. All right, so this is now it's a very simple design. There's just a shaft, a little seal that grabs the shaft in the middle. This is all one piece, and then this piece just fits inside. And that's it for the OralB cross action. Okay, now even though this product is also made in quantities of tens of millions, we didn't have to do anything destructive to take it apart. Let's see if we can put it back together. That's it. And that was with no fast forward.